This week on Wellness and Wonder, Francesca and I are in conversation with Alfred George Bailey, photographer, cinematographer and director, all about the life through a lens. Come and join the conversation. Okay, well, welcome back to another episode of Wellness and Wonder. I'm Paris Yvette.
Hello, welcome to Wellness and Wonder. I'm Francesca D'Amico, and today we are hosting the amazing Alfred. We are super happy to introduce him. First, I would love to make a little introduction about what cinema is for me. And I would love to start saying that it comes from the Greek. It means movement, like an emotion. It creates a movement within us and outside us. So in front of us, which I find amazing. And the cinema, it truly, is philosophically, to understand a movie, one must look at it as a visual concept in motion. That's why, Alfred, I would love to ask you, if I was a director, I would always say, I dream for a living, like always Spielberg reminded us. What would you say about that?
That's a really great quote from Spielberg, I dream for a living. I just think it's a chance for one to share stories, tell stories, and hopefully the work that you do or the thing that's within you can benefit others, or someone will see, they'll sit in a cinema or watch something or watch it on a device, whatever, and watch it at home, and they will be inspired, moved, emotionally touched, or they feel within them, they feel a sense of, oh my God, there's something that I've always wanted to do and I haven't done it and I'll do it. Or I was going through a lot of pain and now something that's on the screen helps me to ease that pain or relate to it. Or I was feeling down and now I feel joyous. Or I'm in a good place and I want to be scared,
Yes.
The cinema has all of this power.
Incredible.
Which I love.
And it's such a magic thing, actually, obviously, as Francesca said, to have you here. And, let's talk about this journey of what cinema is to you, from the director you are, the cinematographer, and what this whole process, living your life through a lens. Talk about that. How does that go? How do you get into that journey? For those who won't know, you're actually a very established jazz musician as well. And so here we are today, as an accomplished man of cinema. How do we get here?
Wow. My journey isn't or hasn't been conventional in the sense like I knew exactly what I wanted to do until a little bit later in my life. So I've always been moved visually by film. But I got into film much later in my life, but it's the still image. I started off as a photographer. I'm just moving my life forward. But that was the one thing that I always had an eye for something and always saw things. And as a young child, I was, how can I say, I wasn't very well as a child. So I spent a lot of time healing, recuperating and getting myself and being, getting well. And in the UK, Francesca, there was a thing called a Wednesday matinee, and it was on telly, and it usually was very cheesy Hollywood films from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. But occasionally they have a period where they showed film noir, and the very first film to inspire me, and I'll tell you about the very first person to inspire me, but the very first film that inspired me was Citizen Kane. At the time I was very young. I think I must have been about 8 or 9. And I was watching a film like this, and I didn't realize at the time that I was falling in love with cinematography. And I didn't realize, and I wasn't scared of it. It didn't frighten me, which is, some kids at that age would be, oh, it looks a bit dark, and, there's lots of, it looks a bit, and maybe there is subject matters I didn't understand at the time, but I was very moved by all the shapes and the colors and, black and white, because there's so many tonal values of even black and white. And I was falling in love with cinematography at a very young age. So that's how that happened. But as a child, another thing that inspired me was paintings and books about art.
I would say, Alfred, about what you just said, that confusion always brings something magical afterwards, like creativity or a realization. So it is always good, let's remember to our friends, guests, that is always nice to suffer, because sufferance can bring something positive afterwards.
Yeah, and there's a thing in the business that we call happy accidents, where you could be on a set, or you could be creating something, or you could be filming, and something will happen, and that accident will generate something incredibly positive. And what it will do, it will cause a chain of events to happen that you'd be like, oh wow, this is incredible. That happened with my last film, I Still Breathe.
Wow.
The DOP I worked with, Matteo Bangrazzi, he's Italian. He's the guy's incredibly gifted. This young guy, he's gonna be something. And we're on set, and we had this happy accident. We were both standing there, and he looked at me. He goes, "Oh my god!" He goes, "Happy accident." And the person who was going to do a performance stood in the shadows a certain way, and then the light, because they were just literally placing the lights, we weren't really ready yet to say it was going to go there. Her shadow just cast a long shadow. She was just rehearsing and practicing, and we were looking at the shadows on the ground. We just said, right, let's do the setup here now, because we filmed her at a distance, and there is a section where she's dancing. You saw she's performing and she's moving, and her shadow is so long, and it's just going on, and it's just really a beautiful shape and a form. And for some reason that definitely gave me the idea that she was using that as a way of thinking about time and how things haven't changed, they are changing, struggling. And it was just this kind of, the light, the way it shone through her, and the shadows long, and just the way she was moving and contorting her body. It's just a moment to reflect, and it reminded me of reflection. So those things happen, and they happen a lot on set. They happen when I'm on the road, when I was filming. Sometimes you get to interview somebody, and especially when you're doing it as an independent filmmaker, and you have to think on your feet, and you have to literally see a situation where I'm going to interview someone, and you go to their place, and you don't have light setups, and thank God for modern technology, because modern equipment, you don't need a light meter. You can literally look around and go, okay, and you have to think, where's the best place to place them, that it would complement them. And everybody's different. Skin tones, hair color, big, small, thin, black, white, all different races. How am I going to do this? The light could be really flat and gray. It could be sunny and beautiful. It could be really bright, really shady, really bright. So you have to deal with all of this stuff and how to handle it. And I love that, because it makes you think on your feet. So those are the things that inspire me as well.
Yes, so with all those details to take care about, there is also the connection you have to build with your actors and with the surroundings. So
yeah,
so it is it's one of the most complete jobs, and more difficult in a way, because there is so much going on, and you have to handle everything as a director, right?
You do. I think, like everything, no one person is an island. So if you have a great team around you and you collaborate, that's the way you're onto a winning streak. And if you feel you can do it all by yourself, you can't. I mean, my first two films, I shot them, did the sound, interviewed, stills, because it was out of necessity more than just because I was trying to prove a point. It was because of budgetary measures and stuff like that. But if you have a great team of people around you, it's going to work. And a director is the person who is seen as the one who controls the whole team, but also he needs to have confidence, so he doesn't have to worry about the team. So if you have a great team and they're doing really well, then it makes your job a lot easier as a filmmaker.
That's true. And you enjoy it even more too.
You do, because you put it's about trust. And if you trust the people you're working with, and you just go, this is it, I'm trusting you. You've had the discussions. It's like the way that Matteo and I work, as he's a DOP and I'm a director, and I shot, so we speak the same language. So he'll say stuff. Sometimes he just has to look at me, and I just laugh, and I'll go, I'm not going to have that. He's going, and we laugh, because there's a non-verbal communication, because he knows what's going on in here. And there's a thing the director has to do a shot list, and the shot list breaks down everything that's in here. So without that, he won't know what I want. And I need him to know, the producer needs to know that. So when you go on set and you're making stuff, then they know exactly what's required. So I have to say, this is the colors I like. This is the shot. I want a medium shot coming in here. It's a blow by blow. This scene, the opening is going to be like this. This is going to do like this. And this can all change. Right. But on the set, this is the way things happen all the time. And it's just like, oh, do you know what? I love the way they're doing this. Let's just try this, And that it's happened quite a lot. But then I give that to him. I write it out. And then he'll go, great. Well, the person who's the lighting person needs to know what colors I'm thinking about, and all of this is here. You got to hand it over as best as you can, and you have to trust them and their creativity to run with it.
Amazing.
Because that's the thing, it's trust. It's all about going, there you go.
You have to have obviously this overriding sense of belief in your team. Now, you obviously threw some terminology in there. So for our listeners who aren't aware, give us a rundown of who your team would be. So you use the terminology DOP. Give us who your direct. So for those who obviously are interested in cinema, want to know in your position what your team would look like, let us know.
And this is all, Paris, this is all, Francesca, dependent on the size of your budget and the size of your production. So the top of the, unfortunately, the top of the tree is the director. The next down would be either the producer, and who works with the director, and the DOP. I reckon it's director DOP. The relationship between the director and that's called a director of photography. So that's what a DOP stands for. And then there's the first AD, which is the first assistant director. Works between. Sometimes some films, if you look, you'll see first assistant director, second AD, third AD. Major budget films need that amount of people around. Then after that, you have the sound, and then you got the guys who work with the sound guys. Then you have a thing, because of the digital times we're living in. There is someone on set. There's you can have a person online on set taking all the data and backing it up and storing it, and they're called a DIT, which is a digital assistant. They're there literally just to crunch all the stuff. There's a camera assistant, so the DOP has his assistants.
Wow.
He has he'll have an assistant camera operator. There's the clapper loader, who generally is sometimes the first assistant. They'll load it. They can do that job as well. And there's a grip. A grip is the guy who does all the stuff, like the grips can do the dollies, the trucks that load. So if the camera's sitting on there with the director, or just with the DOP and the director's there, and you want to move in, you move it on a dolly, which is a cart with a track. So I'm not going to describe everything because we'll use all our time up, but it's really big, and then it can be really small, and people can do many jobs. But what I've done in my career, so far, I've learned, because I've had to do it myself. I was my own DOP, my first AD. Wow. I was doing the sound recording, interviewing as well, doing the stills, producing tracks with the soundtrack, because I was, my music background, helping to do that too.
Music is everything, Alfred, and it's part of the movie. It's part of
absolutely everything. Yes, it really is. And Francesca, it's to me, music is key, because sometimes if you watch a film and you think something doesn't feel right, the sound's not right, the music is not right for the film, and you think there's something's not right, or they get the visuals right and then the audio. If something's not right, or they get all the sound right and then the visuals is wrong. It's making sure that everything fits. But music, I guarantee both of you, if you think of one of the films that you love most, I guarantee the most famous films on earth, they are all known to people by their soundtracks. Star Wars, Close Encounters, Jaws,
The
Godfather. Godfather.
The Godfather.
No, every one of those films, like, Sergio Leone, I used to love, so I knew all the spaghetti western stuff, and that's my part of my growing up. So all of those theme tunes, like they're embedded in your brain. You can't get rid of them, and you just go. As soon as you hear like Alessandroni, he was the guy who did all the whistling. The good, the bad, the ugly. Or you hear the 4 or the 5 tones. That's Close Encounters, Jaws. Yeah. Hey, Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock. The strings go. It's the films would not be the same without it. It can't. It's not possible.
Following the music, we also get in touch more with the thing behind the scenes, because we get lost in that moment, following the moment of the actual movie. It's pure connection.
What I was actually going to say as well, I think there's probably another episode in here, to be honest with you, because we can go into music and movement, you know, really the impact that that would have in the visual
Yeah,
work, because of course this is a whole other world, you know, of course, Francesca,
it really is.
you know, I think we spoke briefly, and obviously the events you did with FAM, you know, you set up the landscape to match the music, you know, she would time the performance to match the art form, and of course it's all movement.
Connected.
Yes, it's all connected. But
You were the queen of the music, let's not forget.
stop. We did our best, that's for sure. But, you know, bearing that in mind, obviously let's go kind of zoom on. So we know you have this massive team, you have this visionary from the color and all these different elements. But the big question is how you've got to have a certain element of self-belief, self-trust, self-motivation to get all of this picture come together. And of course, being honest and wonder, let's talk about the spirituality behind your job. You know, what does it take? Do you carry, is that, you know, creativity has a certain burden in all of us. It hits you at God knows what time. Do you, is there anything you spiritually find? Is there a magic in it? Where does the world of spirituality lie in your world?
Do you know, it's really funny. All the times I've been interviewed and stuff, no one's ever asked me that question before. So this is a first.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, so no one's ever asked about the spirituality in any of this. They ask about what's your favorite film, you know, the usual questions. You know what's really funny? I'm a very spiritual person in the sense of, like, because of my upbringing and how I see the world and light and shade and sun and how you connect with people, and how that, if you could tell when a film's really successful, it's done well, I can guarantee that everybody on set has been really happy, or the energy's been really, and that's to do with people's spirits connecting, and it's to do with people being open and free. And I think if you're not, it becomes stunted, it doesn't work, it becomes pedestrian, where whatever you're doing, the music, the film, the photography, there's no, all the true people that I admire you have to give yourself. You can't, it doesn't work otherwise. So, for instance, there were times I was saying to Paris that there's times when I was feeling very, like, because of lockdown, and I made a film during lockdown last year, so, you know, things can be done. But at the very beginning of it all, I remember this feeling, I'm going to assume it's because I do street photography and I do documentary photography. So I'm out there doing stuff and I'm always carrying a camera with me. And I thought to myself, if I lose that, I feel like I'm losing a piece of me, a piece of my soul, a piece of me. My creativity is not being fed, and it's feeding something within me, which is a part of my spirit. It's part of who I am, what makes me who I am as a creative person. And if I'd lost that, then, you know, I know that it would have a detrimental effect on me. So knowing that I just sort of use the time during lockdown to write, because I love to write. And then this film happened and it sent out all the positive energy. And then all of a sudden, it was like a snowball, how the film happened. It is another subject and it would dominate how the film was created. But it was a situation where it came out of a conversation, because I asked my gut, do you follow your gut feelings? Because I know for me, I can only speak for myself. Whenever I don't follow my gut feelings, things don't always go as planned.
We speak about this all the time. You know, Francesca and I always say the power of intuition is everything. And if we think so, and for a man, that's amazing. Not saying that it's definitely not a masculine thing, but, you know, as women, we are very intuitive creatures. Everyone has an intuition, but for you to actually live off that intuition, that's an amazing trait to have for sure.
Yes, Alfred. Can I ask you something? Regarding what you just said about writing?
Yes,
I love writing, but would you agree with the fact that only a generation of readers will spawn a generation of writers? Do you agree with that?
You know what? I had
Quote of the day.
If you can't read, you can't write. And if you can't write, you can't read. So the answer to that is yes and yes. I think you have to be able to. Do you know what's really funny? These are, by the way, these are great questions.
Thank you.
The funny thing about that is, when I was young, I was kind of like dyslexic. I used to jumble my words up, and things were difficult. And I'm sure my parents were worried about where, me as a person. This is a regular young boy growing up in London. How am I going to cope? I was very, very quiet, and they were really worried. They thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't speak much, and they thought I couldn't hear. But I was just quiet. I was just in myself. And then all of a sudden, sometimes the pieces of the puzzle fit, or you have a really good teacher. And that's another thing. Having someone who, male or female, it doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about someone who sees something in someone and goes, do you know what? I'm going to spend a little bit more time. The thing that's, you see, you can pile a whole pile of money up as big as the whole world. And then and if you say to really human beings, love to feel appreciated, love to feel that someone's actually concentrating on them. I mean, the world, the way we've styled it now, the way that, not we, but just certain aspects of the world is geared towards commercialism, and they're planting that seed in our heads that we have to consume all the time. When what we really want to do is just be closer to another human being, which the pandemic has really, funnily enough, it's showed the people, even the ones who say, I don't like really hanging out with people, they're the ones that are suffering the most because they really know what it's like not to hang out and not to actually associate with people. So in answer to your question, everything that we have within us, and the whole thing about intuition as well, I think if you don't listen to that voice, that little voice can say, you need to read more. And you go, no, I don't.
Right.
Because it's gone up here. That gut feeling here in your spirit is going, you need to read more.
Yeah.
And it's so, the feeling and the actual speed of that sensation is light speed. And you feel it, and then if you leave it on the cooker too long, you don't eat it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are our own cheaters, in fact.
Thank you. That's absolutely the right way of putting it. And we do cheat ourselves, and sometimes, and I've done it to myself a few times. And it's really funny. I can tell you a quick story about it, very quick. One day, this is years ago, I was on a bus. It was a beautiful day. I had my headphones on. It was all sunny, and this voice inside me that said, "Get off the bus. Just go for a walk." And I was like, I'm nearly going where I'm going. And I thought, all right, let me just get off. And I walked around the corner, walked down the road. I was going, God, this day is beautiful. Headphones on, music playing. I thought, I better go back to where I was doing and get to where I'm going. So a week later, I got a call from a friend, this guy who I hadn't seen in years. And he said, I saw you get off the bus and I was calling to you, but you had your headphones in you and I couldn't, and you didn't listen. And then I ran into a friend of mine who had your number, and I'd lost your number. And then that guy put me onto somebody else to do a job, which connected me to doing something else. Then I ended up doing this film, my first film
Wow.
job. That's true. And that's sometimes you don't understand why. And some things are not revealed to you straight away. And I truly believe this, that sometimes you do things, you think, I'm not getting anything out of this. Or it doesn't seem like anything's happening because it's not now. I pick this up, I drink it, that's immediate. But some things aren't immediate.
Well, we often speak about this, don't we? It's that divine timing all the time. We say, there is always, we plant the seeds for the future. We do things, and it's the red pill, blue pill of life. If we take this angle, that angle, where will it lead us to present, all that we desire and all that we're manifesting,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love to say something regarding being cinema, the reinterpretation of the world and the whole arts and the whole of techniques. But I would say that a filmmaker must be a visionary at the same time. Not only, it doesn't have to reinterpret the world, but it has to be a visionary. And in fact, most of the times, film directors are very sensitive, and I noticed that there is a movie which is actually is representing the COVID nowadays in the past. So this filmmaker had the vision of this COVID of this pandemic that was coming. So sometimes in movies we can represent a reality that are not yet happened yet.
Yeah, so that's true. And if you think about it, science fiction becomes science fact. If you look at something as simple as a TV series like Star Trek, where the guys had these pads that they were looking at and touching.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at that happen 40 years later or 30 years later. Steve Jobs, Palo Alto, the hippies, they created the iPad.
Yeah.
Because the iPad was before the phone, but they shelved the iPad and then they moved on to this. So, and having that vision, having foresight and that's the whole thing. We're really going back to that thing of being in tune, being sensitive, knowing, listening to that voice, listening to doing things that will open things up. You know, and you're right, cinema is such a powerful tool.
Yes, in any sense, any world, yeah.
We're all the first things that we ever use, the paintings. So there are people who are the peasants, and they used to make these really amazing religious paintings. And you can imagine a little peasant who doesn't see any art at all. Don't forget, they never saw writings. They never saw anything. They just got up, did stuff, did the thing, laughed, talked, enjoyed life. And if they went into a church, that's the first time they saw religious text. Like it was all kind of illuminated in this beautiful gold leaf and the reds and the separate colors. That must have looked like the most incredible thing on earth to see that, but they couldn't understand it because they couldn't read. So but for them, they go, these guys are very special because and it was mainly men, all men, and who were involved in this, and they basically held the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. And then I think it's Johannes Gutenberg, I think, with the printing press, was the one who just decided, yes, this is time to free us and let everybody have it. That's one of the most important inventions on the planet Earth, the printing press, as well as fire, of course, and the wheel.
Right.
The printing press, exactly, kind of important.
Alfred, just to give a little sparkle to this discussion, I remember that I love Steven Spielberg, is one of my favorite directors, and he always, I remember his sentence that says that Hollywood is a place where they pay $1,000 for a kiss and 50 cents for the soul. What would you say about that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay. Yes, yeah, I think he's being comical there as well. I think he's not being 100% serious, but there was a quote the other day I heard, which it's from the Bible actually, and it said, "What would it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul?" And I was thinking, I'm sorry to bring this up, I thought, it's funny that came up because the first thing that came into my mind was someone like Donald Trump. He would be, what would it profit a man to lose the whole world and gain his soul? So I find he's someone who is soulless in a way. I may be the wrong thing to say, but I just feel, gosh, sometimes that's why the word things people say are very powerful. The word is one of the most powerful things, and what we do, and the image we project, and how people see us as a species on this planet. And I think we've been doing incredible things and amazing things, but also, we've done some pretty despicable things. But I really do hope and pray that people like yourselves were doing this, spreading messages of, and it's like a voice in the wilderness crying out sometimes in all the mediocrity and all the nonsense of everything's fast. It's like, the McDonald's of music. I'm sorry for using that term. It's fast. It's you eat it now, but you kind of feel hungry down the line. And that's what happens to your soul. Your soul gets hungry because it's not being fed properly, Yes. But if you give people dirty water, that's all they're going to drink.
For sure. And that's often what, Francesca and I talk about, is that this world has become, and, with we had Rui Philip on last week about the way the world is moving with technology. And we said that this world is constantly give it now, providing now. There is no long term in anything. And I think to go back what you're saying with just the, you know, the trust in intuition, the trust in creativity, you know, everything we do, I think anything, intelligence is a science too, but there's a spirit science in creativity that I think that we don't even look at. And I think this is something, let's say if there's somebody who is inspired to start creating. So I feel like Francesca, and obviously Francesca, please let me know if I'm saying this wrong, but I think our position as Wellness and Wonder is, because of course someone will look at this podcast and say, well, we spoke to someone in technology, we're speaking to now, you know, a cinematographer, director, and that's our message exactly. We push that this is all connected. Everything has spirit, everything has energy, you know, energy. And so people laugh, and I often refer back to the relationship with my cat, but all I've ever done, and you know, if you know me long enough, you get to see my cat, but everything knows love, everything knows power. And of course this goes back to what you're saying with your team and on your films, that you push enough love regardless of the challenges, it comes through. And I think this is something that so many people need to look at in their creativity. And what would you say to that person maybe wanting to get into the field that you do?
Just, you know, yes, I'm really sorry, it's really great. Another great question. You guys are full of great questions. Do you know what it is? It's about doing it. There is no trick to it. There's no special sauce, or there's no magic secret ingredient. I know sometimes in this game that people...
The magic is the result. Sorry if I interrupt you, Alfred.
Yes, it is. And that's absolutely true. And it's also getting people together who are of like mind, or people who... giving other people a chance. If you see something in people and going, you know, I'm all about, you have to have the right intention in life to do things. And it's like doing good. You have to sow those seeds. You know, they're kind of spiritual seeds, not physical seeds, but they're kind of actually sometimes more important. Because, you know, the ripples, they just go on and on and on. Because if you do good and you help people, it does come back. Maybe not instantly. And you don't do things because you want it to come back straight away. You do it because it's the right thing to do.
It's the law of karma.
And also sometimes things don't work out for you, even when you've done good.
Right.
And you think to yourself, this isn't right. But then things have a way of kind of, like the universe has a way of kind of just adjusting and making things kind of, what's the word for it, just sit and fit into the right, there's like these kind of like spiritual cogs that, you know, they may be out, then they all of a sudden they fit together and they start to turn, and they turn in your favor. And not because of you're doing things to get for gain, it's because it's like a wheel. Eventually your turn comes around again. Right. And sometimes people have a lot of good turns, you know.
For sure. I think that's...
As my mum used to say, you have to wake up knowing that the world isn't fair. Then that's a good way to wake up.
Now, regarding what you just said, guys, about these beautiful messages that cinema gives, it is the how, not the what. So as it is the cinema, it is life. It is the how, the intention, like Alfred said, and Paris. It is not the what, because then we lose the final result, which is the magic, the pure intention, and the pure purpose.
And I definitely think, obviously, and it just shows because, of course, as, you know, health coaches and in our position where to try and, you know, lead people into a lighter spirit, lighter lifestyle, you know, we often get people who are challenged with where they are at life. You know, they see their bad turns, they see the challenges, and of course they become consumed by that. And of course, for us, it's such an important thing, just to what you said, that there's always a cycle, and it's it's the yin and yang of life. You know, it's understanding the darkness for what it is, the good for what it is. And yeah, sometimes the bad bits mean longer, but of course, when you make a film, you don't sit and go, well, I'm only going to make a film if it's going to be like, you know, Golden Globe winning. You just make it.
That's not the intention. The intention is you've got something to say. And when I don't have anything to say, I'll stop doing it.
Wow.
And it's also to create something that it's like what Francesca say. You have something to say. You've got to get it out because you know the end result is going to touch somebody somehow. If one person is moved deep within their soul, then you're doing the right thing. And I remember my first film, and it was such an amazing thing. We showed it at the BFI, set out, and Gregory was there, and it was such an amazing thing, and then it was shown at the Barbican, which was another sellout thing. I did a Q&A. And after, in the reception area, there were people milling around and waiting, and this guy came, he was waiting to see me. And I was with friends, I said, listen, I'm going to speak to this guy because he's been waiting. So I went and spoke to him, I said, how can I help you? And he went, I came to your first film, but the first screening of the film at the BFI. So, thank you so much. And he said, but it was really hectic, and it was a premiere, and you looked really, you looked hectic. And he said, I just wanted to say something to you. And I said, so what's that? And he said, after I saw your film, I hadn't spoken to my father in like 10 to 15 years, and I went and I phoned him that night.
Wow.
And we reconnected, and I said to him, look, I'm really touched. And I said, I've done my job then. And I just thought that for me is the reason why I do what I do, because, and I've had some really good things happen with my second film and then the third, and, it's in terms of it moving people. So to me, that is the, what's the point I'm trying to say? It is the reason I do what I do. And I'm so incredibly happy and privileged, and also blessed to know that this is the sometimes it takes a while to find out what it is you're going to do in your life.
Right.
Some people know what they're going to do straight away. Francesca in Paris, it's just like some people just know I'm doing this. They're lucky, and that's very fortunate. Yeah, and some people are very fortunate that they know from a child that I'm going to be a concert pianist, but sometimes it's the environment you're born in helps.
Yeah.
So it is luck sometimes, a lot of the time.
Yes, it is luck, Alfred. I would say that my luckiness came from doing things because I felt them. So not because I had to do them, which is different. When you have to do something, is not really the same of when you feel you have to do something.
Yeah, I agree. And it's true. Having to do something is, in a sense, having to do something is it feels like it's forced, and it's false, and it's in a sense it's a negative. It's all negative. But if you, it's like the whole thing about I want to be in this relationship, I have to be in this relationship.
Right.
It's that thing, and it's that I really got to go to work. I really want to go to work.
Yes.
And you feel that excitement, and you feel like I can't wait to see what's going to happen today.
Yeah.
Because and that's how, and it's like every day you get up's a blessing anyway.
Yeah, for real.
You see if it's it's not nice. I mean, it's like with the blinds closed. It's a bit grey. It's that horrible grey that I don't like.
British grey.
Which is really grim. But there's also, when it's sunny, it is absolutely completely, it's like there's two different worlds. It's like when the sun is shining and it's warm and the light, and it's spring is coming, and you get those gorgeous days, and light for me is incredibly important. And it just triggers moods, and I can literally sometimes I get deja vu, or I'm transported back to when I was a kid, or times when I was away, and certain Italy, when I lived there, has a certain light. France has a certain light. When I lived in New York, the light's different. Go to California, the light's different again. Go down south, in America, you get to like Nashville, a place like that, or North Carolina, a different light. Hong Kong, very different. Yeah. Australia, it's just there's nuances in the light and how it shines, and the land and the colours, which is beautiful. That's why all of that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because it shows there's so much more magic to create as well. You can hear that in how you speak, the creativity coming out of you. You've got you've done, you've got 3 and pending solid films that now we're going to expand to to this many, and you can just see that from the passion, the way you discuss this. It's fantastic. I definitely know also Francesca is just super film buff, aren't you? All the time she's like, "Tell Paris, watch this film, watch this film."
Yes, because it opens, your imagination. It makes you travel in your mind. And there is nothing better. Mostly now during COVID, we're at home. We should watch amazing movies and fly with our mind and get out of this routine, which sometimes is a bit boring, and watch an amazing movie that makes you feel different.
Yeah, visit and watch really great films, watch classic films, watch old films, watch new films. Just equate yourself with some amazing stuff that was done before, because they are all inspirational. Because if it wasn't for those, people wouldn't be inspired by
yes,
other things. So that to anybody out there listening, who's going to listen to the podcast, and in that roundabout the question about, if anybody wants to get into film, just my one thing is you could do stuff on here, you could do stuff on anything, just do it. And then when you know that you really don't want to, you get that drive and the urge, I want to see what I want to do next, then you sort of graduate, get yourself a half decent camera. Nothing that's going to break the bank, but something that will capture, and you can start to build on that. And then if this is all I want to do, boom, go for it and just dive in, work with people, jump on, do stuff for free, just create stuff yourself, because we're in a really magical time. This is a really amazing time that we're living in, where I shot 2 films myself, and with the equipment I got, it was broadcast quality.
Wow.
The sound is broadcast quality, and I all fitted in a backpack, and I traveled, and we went around, traveled across America and did all that stuff in Europe, and it's all doable. So there isn't an excuse. The only excuse is if you start to become a chore, as you were saying earlier on, you shouldn't be doing it.
Right. Or
it should be just a hobby.
And to invest in it, thinking about the purpose of the final amazement, not only about the earnings that you get back, because then you can also enjoy the movie, like you said, Alfred.
It's not about that. You're right, Francesca. And at the end of the day, it's about the craft.
Yeah.
It's like being an artisan. If you're getting into this world, you're not necessarily going to make any money from it. Yeah. Sometimes films don't make any money. Sometimes you do great things. Years later, they become great. Or sometimes we are fortunate that you do something and it starts to make a decent amount of money. Or, and that's all to do with being with the right place at the right time with the right people around. And that's another thing about having the right people around you too. Because films are there to be seen, and if no one sees your work, well, there's no point. If it's just your friends and family, that's nice, but you want people you don't know to see it. So whatever you have inside, the stories that you want to tell can be seen by other people.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
It's really magical. And yes, you just look at it. And there's one final thing, because obviously with my family, we watch Netflix, with the dawn of Netflix. Now film has gone from just cinema to DVD, now to this, of course, instant demand, too much, too quickly, everything. But just to also go off really what Francesca spoke about earlier with now, there's films about what we're in now with the pandemic. But recently I've been seeing a lot more films with spiritual content in. Do you think also there generally is, and we often kind of ask this in every kind of way, every episode, but we seem to see that there's some sort of awakening. So this new thing on Netflix called Behind Her Eyes, and they talk about astral travel, which is a very deep spiritual thing.
It is
very, very, but it's turned it into something somewhat commercial. Do you think now cinema is going to be the path into this, or what do you think?
I think about this, people are going to be careful when they're doing these things, that it's not trivializing or making it like, oh yeah, it's just something that they've made up and they've written. Because there are people who don't know about the native tribes in Southern Americas, like the Incas and the Aztecs and the Mayans, and also the Native American tribes and South African tribes as well, who they're the leaders, or the shaman, or the people who were the spiritual leaders of the thing used to do this. They used to leave their bodies, and so they could travel across the universe. And if they believed that back then, and they could do stuff,
Right.
Taking it back to its real form, we're so caught up with technology that we still really don't know how they built the pyramids. We still really don't know how they built all those temples. We have an idea, but there's no blueprints. It's like, oh, that's how they did it.
Right. Well, we haven't been able to do it again, have we?
How do they get those stones that are monumental to fit like a glove with no gaps in between? Are you kidding me? This is incredible stuff. So then that's architecture. That's masonry.
Yes.
And this is not even, and then these guys, if you look, it's that whole thing of looking when they fly over the pyramids from an aerial view, they're the same pattern as the constellation of Orion. I mean, give me a break. Exactly the same.
Right.
And also, when they were new, they were covered in white limestone and capped with gold, so you could see them hundreds of miles away, and they shone like a beacon, so you know exactly where you're going. In alignment, excuse me. That's not stupidity. That's knowing. That's another level of spirituality, another level of being in touch with your planet.
Yeah.
So, in answer to your question again, those shows may trivialize stuff like that. People don't take it seriously, and they think, oh, it's just some kind of thing that they've written in a story.
Yeah.
Not knowing that there's more to it unless they go deeper. But if you take it too seriously, people would tune out. So they have to sort of fantasize it a bit, which I find, and I don't know. You have to be careful with that stuff, not to trivialize things that people that have a base in reality.
That's true. And obviously this is probably something, Francesca and I will go into at a later point, but that is exactly it, that we do need to be careful that with this new everything that we're having. So when the film Contagion came out, we never would have thought here we would be in this Western world going through.
We're involved in that.
Ever. And I think
people joked about 28 days later. That's a different thing. But Contagion. Oh yeah, it's just a farcical thing about we're so on top of things like pandemics and stuff, because the last one was it 1910 or whenever it was, or
Yeah.
But what we didn't realize that our generation have never known. Mine, parents, they didn't live in. So we're talking 2 to 3 generations who had no idea what a pandemic is like. So the end of their one was when they came out of it. And they had little to no technology to deal with it in like the way that we do now.
Yeah.
But
anyway, we're going down that.
Hey, but the thing is, this is the conversation, it's wrapping it all in and understanding but it's like technology bliss at the end of the day. I always think that when they had the Spanish flu, and of course where they would have had, the other sides of the world where they had the pandemics, I think part of the problem here is that we've had too much exposure to too much too soon with too little fact, I think. And so, as you say, I think you're both saying that the really creativity is the breakaway at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is also at the same time normal, this evolution of the cinema that represents the reality of the moment. So even bad messages can be transformed in positive messages, being cinema pure philosophy. I believe that it's normal now to have stronger messages, while before was more, completely different. I don't know.
Yeah. And, I just hope that people, there's more stories told, which there are constant. Some are trivial. But there's a lot of, if you find the gems, are really great ones. They're just so uplifting, and we need to laugh, we need to cry, we need to feel wonder. Yeah. That's why there's the variety. There's the documentary, there's the drama, there's the feature, there's a docudrama. There's lots of stuff going on, and there's the action films, sci-fi. There's something for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm actually pleased, and I don't want to be typecast into. He's just a music doc guy, because I'm working on a drama as well. So but I do love docs.
Yeah,
I do love documentaries.
But I think that's also the joy of the time we're in too, that documentaries have become so much more popular than they were too, because they were really only available in a certain level of network, where now, particularly the true crime element of the music docs and the true crime docs have come through stronger than ever. Of course, we've got the Sam Cooke documentary, we've got all the Biggie and Tupac ones, along with the endless amount of true crime, so people who maybe didn't see their visual entertainment as educational or topical. Now that's become, rather than the kind of, I'm just going to watch a film, they're like, let's get into something deep, let's watch a documentary. And that's such a lovely twist to opening the borders of what people are interested in now.
So I'm actually very, like, well, I don't know about closing, but I'm so privileged and blessed to be doing what I do for a living.
Alfred, amazing. You are very lucky to be able to follow your dreams with your powerful force that is within you, and we can really feel it.
Oh, I'm touched. And you guys are doing this is great, and you have asked there were so many first-time questions. It's ridiculous, and I've never been asked before. So I don't think anybody else, unless they see this and steal your questions, but I don't think.
They're probably going to.
Yeah. And I can always say, well, originally, Francesca in Paris asked me that. Yeah, well, that was that interview, and they're very deep questions, and they're questions that need to be asked. And thank you so much. You
know why, Alfred, we are asking you these questions? Because you're a deep person, of course, and you can inspire people. So for us, it's very important to give these messages of openness and depth at the same time to people, because people like you inspire the world.
Oh, thank you.
You do.
Well, you can only, and the thing is, just like I said before, I just want, one of the things I love so much is when you have a group of people together that you just get them together to work together and really create. Lots of them don't know each other, and they all come together and they create something. It's that thing you said, Francesca. It's that end result. It's not generally the journey. Sometimes it's when you see it, and when you see it shaping together. It's like, I remember the first time you have that feeling like, oh my gosh, I've made a film. The very first time I remember it was such an emotional time. It made me cry, and I was just like, it was really like, wow, this is a big deal. And when it was premiered at the BFI Screen 1, the major screen where I went to watch famous film directors give their talks, and the place was sold out. It was huge, and I couldn't watch the film. I was too nervous.
Wow.
I had to go in the green room, and the guy who ran the London Film Festival, and he said, Stuart Rand said, come here and sit down. He goes, would you like a drink? I said, yes. He goes, you should be proud. He goes, your first film, tick. He goes, premiering at the BFI screen, BFI. He goes, tick.
It's more than a book, Alfred. It's
much more.
Art, techniques, visuals, messages. It's everything. So it's pure art.
Pure.
And it's a fact, and it's like my second feature, and I'll just say this, another thing. It was about a guy called Jim Marshall, and that was an incredible journey, that film. That was a game changer in terms of my career as a project. But I was responsible to tell the story of somebody's life, a real story. And I remember when we went to San Francisco, it premiered there at the San Francisco International Film Festival. I was really scared because that was his hometown. A lot of his friends still were alive, who were around in the 60s and 70s at Woodstock, Altamont, who were there, who were also jumping photographers and people who were doing some incredible work. And we'd made a film about, their friend, who they knew well for all of his good points and bad points. And oh my gosh, I remember the guy, I was standing outside the theater, one of the ones we were premiering, and the guy goes, you're the director, right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, okay, all right. I was like, oh gosh. And Amelia Davis, who runs Jim's estate, and he was his close friend and assistant, he left everything to her. That's to show you how much love he had for her. And she took care of his estate. Anyway, Amina goes, don't worry about these guys. All of these old cronies are going to come out. They're going to give you the once over. And one guy, after the film was shown, it was like, the plot. It was one guy came up to me and goes, hey man, he was really a tears. He goes, you brought him back, man. You brought him back. He goes, what's and all? He goes, you told it like it was. And that touched me. Because I said I wanted to make a film about, to Tamina asked me what kind of film you want to make. I said, it's Jim's film. It's about a man with all of his faults. With all of his faults, he was so unbelievably gifted and talented. He was ridiculously. But he paid the price creatively because it's a big story. I can't go into now, but it was to the point where, and that's all to do with love and the loss of love. And I always say in the interviews about that film, if Jim's father was a nice guy, none of us would be sitting here.
Wow.
Because he would have taken a different path. He would have been somebody very special. That I know for sure. Photography might have been a hobby, but he would have definitely been either a race car driver or something to do, because he loved mechanics and he understood the mechanics of things. So I truly believe that the guy would have been special regardless, but those photos wouldn't exist.
Wow.
In his life, he took 1.2 to 1.3 million frames.
Jeez, that's crazy.
It is. He was there. He was friends with Hendrix Davis, Miles Davis, Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin. He was everywhere.
Great.
And he went on the Stone 72 tour, which is you guys would have been useless on that tour. That was nothing to do with wellness.
No,
it was all headed. It was all hedonism, but and he survived that. But it was just so amazing to tell his story, and the fact that we won the award for it, and yeah, it's to do with creativity, loving oneself, knowing that if you can't love you, how can you give it out again? And then that's all to do with being well and being in the right place. But towards the end, he learned to do that. He did learn to do it.
Yeah.
In a way, it was a bit late, but he did learn to do it by giving too much away. But he was a very special individual, and I admire his work deeply.
Wow. And you said the power word here, which is the word love. Obviously, we've got our queen of love and expression here as well. So those who have listened to every episode, we know the moment we use the L word, everything lights up. Yes!
I only believe in love, Alfred. Paris, she's very similar to me. We have the same vibes. But I believe that, yes, it's my fight. If without love, I wouldn't be able to be so strong and to be so brutal.
No, you can't. Yeah, you're right. And that's the thing. And the first journey that because we're told, in a way, it's almost like we're taught not to love ourselves because it's a bad thing. Really? No, it's not. You can't be a complete person until you look in the mirror, no matter what you look like, and go, you know what, hey, I love me.
Yeah.
And then you'd be surprised. The people who have got that and understand it, sometimes they're not these amazing looking people. No, far from it. Those are the people sometimes who have the most hang-ups. But there's sometimes these people who are just like, you guys are fortunate. I mean, because you're already spreading this journey, so you're already aware of what's going on. And unfortunately, you're both very attractive women, which is, how dare you? But and be so loving and giving out all this wonderful stuff, which is great, But it's the fact that you look at it, you love yourself, and then all of a sudden, people get drawn to you. It's like stuff that's coming out. It is, absolutely. And what it is also, it's like you shine a light and your light shines absolutely really brightly. And then all of a sudden, it's like a moth. They all start, everything's, and things happen, things come to you, situations.
It's so true, Alfred. Thank you for reminding that. And
people don't think it's a load of crap, and excuse my language, and it's not. It really isn't. And I've tested this thing time and time again. When I was like feeling great on top of the world, I'd walk down the road and I'd be like, it's like I'm like, stuff is coming out of me.
Yeah.
I could talk to the road sweeper and he'll be like, hey mate, how you doing? And it's like and then you have an arm around you. Nothing will happen to you. Nothing will happen to you.
Yeah, what we give, we receive. Even in a movie, if you give your love, your energies to the team, to the people working with you, you receive it back after.
Yeah.
Like in life, we give to receive.
Completely. And that's exactly it, you know. So we come back to our key point all the time. Regardless of what you do, as long as love is first, you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
You know, the love, the energy, the power. And of course, it's been
I agree.
such an honor to have yourself, a king and master of the visual. You know, we haven't even touched on your photography as well. We've definitely gone past
It's a
our
big
hour.
story. Yeah, it's a big
And
story.
we've got
Yeah.
to go through that too. But now, is there anything that you can tell our listeners of what we've got to watch out for next? Of course, you won the Grierson Award for the story of Jim Marshall. So what else do you have to tell us next? What's the next thing we're going to watch from Alfred George Bailey?
The current film now, which is on Sky Isles, which is I Still Breathe, I really implore people to watch it because it's. I made it during lockdown, and I gave a voice to these young people who were incredibly articulate, incredibly knowledgeable about what's going on in the world. Some of them were quite. I don't want to say too much, but it's just. I'm really proud of that project because everybody said yes on it, and it's a short film that was done during lockdown, and it had in it and working with some great people, and I'm very proud of it. And then now I'm working on a documentary series, which is and also I've been approached to do some films. So there's a lot happening, and I'm just like literally working away in the coal mine, the creative coal mine, and then I think later in the year there'll be something, there'll be some announcements, or maybe sooner I just keep busy, and I just tell everybody just do. It's time. Francesca in Paris. I just have to say one thing before I sign off. That people feel that the lockdown. They see it negatively. I've won an award during lockdown. I made a film which we went on Sky straight away, pretty much, and now is doing all the festival rounds, and we're being submitted to so many festivals. Found a writing part. You guys have come into my life, which is incredible. I mean, it's so much really good stuff has happened. So I feel really kind of guilty by saying that it's been negative. It hasn't.
Right. Oh
yeah, I could do it going to Soho and meeting my friends and just doing my usual kind of like, the usual stuff. But, creativity-wise, there's not enough hours in the day. It's like Monday, next thing you know, it's Friday, which is incredible. The weeks are definitely not dragging.
No.
They're not dragging. They're like, shoop.
And of course, in the UK, we just announced we've kind of got 2 weeks and the world's going to start to open back up again. How's it going over there, Francesca?
Here, all good in the wood. I would say that, yes, in general, when we are going through these moments, we realize creativity can help us to let it out, whatever it is. Too much happiness, too much craziness, too much sadness. We have to let it out using our creativity. So the most important, as you said, guys, is to create.
No, that's for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. For those
thank you.
Thank you, Alfred.
And of course,
thank you, Francesca.
To remind everybody, we're here. You can catch us on Spotify. In fact, almost every platform now. We've made it onto iHeartRadio. And Francesca, what do we have to tell everybody? What do we have now?
Oh my God, we have a beautiful platform where we are gonna show you all our beautiful artworks / episodes / amazing interviews like this one today. And so we present you amazing people while connecting you to our values, which are based on love, magic, and all the beautiful things.
On Wellness and Wonder. So go to www.wellnessandwonder.co.uk now, and you can find everything there. All of this, you'll find Mr. Alfred George Bailey, who we've had the honor of interviewing today. And next week is just me and Francesca for a change, isn't it? It's us talking about compassion next week.
A little pause from interviews because after Alfred would be difficult to interview someone else that is so powerful.
We need a week off.
We need a little break. No, but it's actually true. But we want to do a catch-up about spirituality between me and Paris, about something that we're going to reveal soon. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll definitely drop in and listen to that one.
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us again, Alfred.
No, you're welcome. Thank you both. Really, it really is a pleasure. Really,
nice.
And like I said before, you've asked some incredibly unique questions which I haven't been asked before. Which, yeah,
Lovely.
I really appreciate.
Yes.
Super. Wonderful. Well, take care.
Take care, guys.